Here's a number that's going to annoy some of you. $20,000. Not because it's hard to say out loud, but because most Aussies will go their whole life without ever having that sitting in the bank at the same time. And before you switch off thinking, great, another finance bloke making me feel bad about my bank balance, stick with me, because this isn't about shame. It's about a switch that flicks in your head the moment you cross that line. And once you understand why it flicks, you can go and flick it on purpose. Right now, the average household in this country is saving a pretty small slice of what comes in. We're talking somewhere in the low single digits as a share of income once you account for how much bills have crept up. Meanwhile, more than half of us are sitting under that $20,000 mark, plenty with next to nothing set aside for a rainy day. So if that's you, mate, you are not behind. You are the majority. But here's the bit that never gets talked about on the telly or around the barbie. Once you cross $20,000, something changes that has nothing to do with the number itself and everything to do with what it does to your brain. Today, I'm pulling that apart properly. Why it happens and how you use it to change the trajectory of your entire financial life. Under $20,000, you're not managing money. You're managing crisis. Every pay cycle, your money's already spent before it lands. Rent or the mortgage, power bill, servo, groceries that somehow cost more every single fortnight. You're not deciding what you want. You're deciding what you can survive without. And this isn't a willpower problem. There's genuine research in behavioral economics showing that financial scarcity eats into what's called your cognitive bandwidth. Basically, the mental RAM you've got spare for thinking clearly. When you're under pressure with money, your brain treats petrol and grocery decisions like emergencies, because in a sense they are. That constant low-grade panic burns energy you never even notice is gone. You just feel flat, wired, and stuck. And you can't figure out why, because nobody tells you it's your bank balance doing it to your brain, not your character. Quick one, drop a comment below and tell me where your savings actually sit right now. No judgment, I promise you're in good company. And it might help someone else watching feel less alone too. So why $20,000 specifically? It's not magic because of what it can buy. It's magic because of what it takes away. Fear. Stick that amount in a decent high-interest savings account, earning somewhere north of 4.5 to 5% these days, and suddenly you've got a genuine buffer. Hot water system carks it? Sorted. Car needs new brakes? Handled. Lose your job. You've bought yourself a few months to actually think instead of panic applying for the first thing that'll have you. And that breathing room ripples out further than your bank app. Less money stress means better sleep. Better sleep means you're sharper at work. Sharper at work often means better performance, maybe even better pay. Better pay means more saved. It's a loop, and it runs both ways, which is exactly why it's so hard to start, but so powerful once it's moving. Relationships stop revolving around money fights. You stop putting off the dentist to save $80. You start actually seeing chances instead of just surviving the week. A cheap course that could bump your income, a side hustle idea you'd normally dismiss, an investment that finally makes sense instead of feeling like a gamble. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Below $20,000, compound interest is basically whispering. Got $2,000 sitting at 5%? That's about $100 a year. You won't even notice it landing, but get to $20,000 at that same rate and you're looking at roughly $1,000 a year, doing absolutely nothing except sitting there. That's the point your money starts pulling its own weight instead of you dragging it along. But the number's only half of it. The other half is what it proves to you. You've shown yourself you can say no to stuff. You can delay a want for a bigger goal. You stop being bad with money in your own head and start being someone who builds it. When you've got nothing, every purchase is emotional. You're buying a mood, not an item. Once there's a buffer, you stop leaking cash on forgotten subscriptions, servo snacks you didn't even enjoy, and impulse buys that gave you 5 minutes of dopamine and 5 days of regret. Spending gets intentional, and that's the actual line between earning money and building wealth. And once that shift happens, 4 very specific doors open up, including one most people never even realize is connected to their bank balance at all. Let's get into it. First, real investing. With $20,000, you're not stuck parking cash in a savings account forever. You can start putting some of it into ASX-listed index funds, or ETFs, which historically have delivered solid long-run average returns well above what a savings account or inflation alone will give you. That's your money growing your wealth, not just treading water against rising prices. Second, negotiating power. When you're not desperate, you can push back on a lowball pay offer. Walk away from a job that's underpaying you. Take a proper crack at a side business without the terror of missing rent. If it doesn't work, first go. Third, it breaks the loop. Most people are stuck earning, spending, same cycle every fortnight, no ground gained. $20,000 is roughly the point where a gap opens between what comes in and what goes out, and that gap only gets wider from here if you keep feeding it. Fourth, and this is the sneaky one, how people treat you changes. Not because you're flashing cash around, but because desperation has a smell, and so does stability. You negotiate differently. You carry yourself differently. Employers, landlords, banks assessing you for a home loan. They all respond to that shift, even if they couldn't tell you why. So how do you actually get to $20,000 if you're nowhere near it yet? 3 things. No fluff. 1, get brutally honest. Track every single dollar for 30 days. Most people find $300 to $500 a month leaking out somewhere they didn't clock. 2, automate it. Set up a transfer the moment your pay lands before you get a chance to spend it. Pay yourself first, non-negotiable. 3, widen the gap. You can only cut so much fat from a budget. Eventually, you've got to earn more, ask for a raise, pick up extra shifts, sell stuff gathering dust in the shed. Every extra dollar compresses the timeline. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. The stretch from $0 to $20,000 is the hardest part of the whole journey. Not because it's mathematically the steepest, it isn't, but because you're doing it completely blind. There's no feedback. No dopamine hit. You transfer $50 into a savings account and your life looks exactly the same as it did before you did it. That's brutal. And that's exactly why most people quit somewhere between $2,000 and $8,000, convince themselves it's not working, and drain the account for something that feels more real right now. But here's what's actually happening underneath the surface. While it feels like nothing's moving, every deposit is compressing your timeline. A $200 transfer this fortnight doesn't just add $200. It moves your finish line closer. It adds to the base that compound interest is working on, and it reinforces the identity of someone who saves. That last one sounds soft, but it's probably the most powerful of the 3, because the version of you that saves $200 this fortnight is more likely to save $200 next fortnight and the fortnight after, until one day you check your balance and you're at $11,400 and you don't even remember it climbing that high. It feels like grinding for nothing because you're comparing where you are to where you want to be instead of where you started. Flip that. Look back, not forward. Even the small, embarrassing deposits, the $37 you chucked in because it was all you had left, they count. They're all in there, doing the work. The maths doesn't care that it felt insignificant. It just runs, and it will keep running whether you believe in it or not. You just have to stay in the game long enough to watch it kick in. And when it does, you'll wonder why you ever doubted it. If any of this hit home, do us both a favor. Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in the next video.